my name is Kate Elliott, and I'm running for Ipswich School Committee. A little bit about myself. I have lived in Ipswich for the past 19 years. I have 2 children in the school district. I have a middle schooler and a high schooler. I have worked at EBSCO for the past 13 years, and I've volunteered for the past 12 years on various projects in the town and school initiatives. And I'm running to keep my seat on school committee as I was appointed in January, and I feel like I'm just getting started. I have spent the past 4 months learning and listening, and now I feel like I have the foundation to really make a difference, and I would like to be given that opportunity to continue. I've developed an appreciation for how long it takes to get up to speed on different issues that are facing the school committee. Things like budget and policy and facility needs as well. So now I have that background knowledge and direct sort of on-the-job experience. So I feel that I can keep the momentum that I've gained and continue to be an effective school committee member. The most significant role and responsibility of the school committee, as I see it, is to really collaborate with the superintendent and the greater community to help kind of move the district forward. And that could look like a lot of different things. It could be new initiatives, better services for the children, new programming, more transparency. So I think the school committee's job is to really work with the superintendent and look at the big picture and help work on the vision and develop goals, and then make sure that there are policies in place to support that, as well as a budget, obviously, to meet that. So I see the school committee as a real liaison between the schools and the town. And I am always looking at things through sort of a communications lens with the goal of, I think we can always be better at communication and more transparent about things. So I see the school committee's job as really being good communicators with different groups in the community to try to let them know what's going on with the schools. So the first group that the school committee needs to communicate with well are the taxpayers. We need to be transparent with them and communicate with them regularly, as it's largely their tax dollars that we're spending on the school budget. So we need to protect and be good stewards of that money, the taxpayer money, and making sure it's being spent in the best way possible. And then we need to really communicate to the taxpayers that what our plans are and how the money is being spent, because I think that helps build trust with the public. The other groups that we really need to communicate with well on school committee are the other town boards. We collaborate with them and work on them with issues that are facing the entire town, things like budget issues, capital projects. And one thing I have been encouraged by in the last few years is that I do see different town communities different community groups really working together and town boards working together on things. I think the school committee should not just be focusing on school issues. I think we need to think of ourselves in the context of the greater town. And the last group that we need to work closely with and communicate with are the teachers, the students, and families. The administration does most of the communication with these groups, but I do feel it's the school committee's responsibility to ensure that the lines of communication are open and that the school committee is accessible. We represent, families and students and teachers, and we need to listen and be good advocates for them. And this really needs to be a two-way communication. We want teachers to feel supported and listened to and happy and stay in the district. And we also want parents to be happy with their choice of sending their children to public school. And the way that I see the school committee sort of fostering that liaison relationship with the town is through a few different things. So building relationships, listening, and then finding common ground. So those groups I mentioned, other school committee members, town boards, administrators, including the superintendent, all those groups we need to really build relationships with, including members of the town who have children and those that don't have children. I've had one-on-ones with several administrators and multiple parents, and I'm really open to talking with anyone about their experiences in the school district, their concerns, So part of building those relationships are really listening to the people in those groups I mentioned, whether it's a special education parent who's concerned about the services their child's receiving, whether it's a grocery store clerk at Shaw's who maybe doesn't have kids but is concerned that their taxes are going up, or if it's another member of a town board that I disagree with. I think we really need to be listening to each other, and especially listening to people that disagree with you. We need to listen to people's concerns and send them to the right place for answers, or work with them to get the answers that they need. And then after you have those relationships built and you're listening to each other, you can start to sort of find common ground and make plans for common interests and goals. It's things like this that make new initiatives happen. So things like the Race and Equity Working Group, that didn't exist a few years ago, but a need was identified and people came together and decided it needed to be a priority, and so it happened. And I'm hopeful that things like a school project can move forward once we have those relationships and we're really listening to each other and finding that common ground. So my priorities, I just want to close with some priorities I have on the school committee. So number one is to make progress on consensus building for an elementary school building project. Number two is to work on bringing the two elementary communities together. So this is families, this is teachers, and this includes obviously the two new principals we're in the process of hiring. And much of that is the superintendent's job, but I do feel the school committee can help develop goals to make that happen and really hold the superintendent accountable for bringing those two communities together. And my third priority is really continued attention to the budget and timing of a potential override so we can keep the services that we have. We've built up the schools a lot in the last 6 or 7 years since the override passed, and I think we need to always have an eye on the budget and be fiscally responsible, but also really kind of work to move the district forward. So thank you for your time, and I hope that I have shown that my experience and my commitment to the school committee is genuine, and I encourage your vote for me on May 18th at the Ipswich YMCA. Thank you.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeff Pourier. I am a resident of Ipswich. I am a father of two young daughters, both of whom attend Ipswich Public Schools, and I am a candidate for school committee at the upcoming election on May 18th. I lived in town with my family for 6 years. My wife, Jessica, and I were looking for a community where we could raise our family, and we found Ipswich, and we were immediately drawn to a really strong sense of community that we felt and continue to feel exists here, and it's really important that we maintain that. We obviously fell in love with beaches and open space, and we appreciated the downtown area, which we live close to. And then as we spoke to more people, both families that were living here and people involved in education, it became apparent to us that Ipswich was and is a community that feels very strongly about supporting public education here. And that's, I think, evident from residents, that's evident from the families and teachers and administrators in the buildings, and then from the extra organizations in town that have a mission to make sure that students are achieving and really excelling at education. When in 2019, I had an opportunity to give up my daily train commute, and I no longer go into Boston. And in light of that, I was able to have some additional time for being active in the community and volunteering. Part of that has been serving on the Winthrop School Council for the past 2 years. And in that context, I've now seen a lot of issues that come before and deal with and intersect with the school committee. Running for school committee is something that I've been thinking about for some time. And then certainly coming off of the educational year that we've just had and all of the challenges that our students in our district have faced, plus then in March hearing news about the retirements or departures of both of our elementary school teachers and our finance director, I was really empowered by the opportunity that there's real change afoot right now, and I wanted to be involved in that, and that ultimately spurred my decision to run for school committee. One of the questions that I get frequently out meeting folks is exactly what does the school committee do? And it's interesting that by statute or legislative authority, there are only three things that the school committee is charged with, and those are the hiring and terminating of a superintendent, the review and approval of a budget, for the schools or for the district's public education, and then setting goals and policies, for the schools. There are only three tasks, but I view those as a really expansive set of responsibilities. And I think that the right composition of a board who really wants to have a big influence on how our students are taught, what our achievement is and what our preparedness for graduating from high school, I think that board can have a really huge effect on a lot of aspects of what learning is in Ipswich. I also think that when the school committee looks for solutions, that they should be looking for solutions that are right for our town. I think there are a lot of great solutions that work in other towns, and there are probably a lot of great solutions that wouldn't work in another town that would work in Ipswich. And I think that the school committee, looking through a lens of specifically what's right for our town, can also have a big effect in making sure that the education matches up with the priorities and the goals that as a community we establish. Some places that I think that the school committee really has an important role are in making sure that we have an environment within our district that we are having leaders who are being developed, who are really innovative and want to see change, and that they're committed to kind of having an effect on propelling education forward, and making sure that those leaders feel supported, and making sure that our next generation of leaders are also being developed so that when we do have turnover, that we're prepared for that. The school committee, I think, has a major role in establishing what is going to be the curriculum offerings and making sure that those are robust and dynamic and right for the future of education. It's not going to be the same education that we had when we graduated. Our students now are going to be coming out into a different world, so we want to make sure that we're equipping them with 21st century plus skills, and that includes STEM and technology and extra foreign languages and curricular events like arts and music and athletics, and we should be in a position to support all of those. Another place where the school committee has a really important role is setting budget. And budget, it's never easy to be the person or the entity who has to say no. And we do face a number of constraints, as does every town and every school, but we need to be mindful of what we're asking residents to support and making sure that where we have shortfalls, that we can do those in a manner that hopefully that gap can be closed with some creative or alternate funding, or where we're making choices to invest in something, that we have some measurable way to be able to account back to residents that they see a good return on their investment, and they continue to want to generously support education. When I think about how are we going to get to that next step, I think about, well, what qualities is it as a school committee member would allow me to either bridge a divide or bring people together, or to enthusiastically want to support a proposal. One thing that I found is apparent during the school committee election process is just how diverse the people are who support me. And I don't know if that's a skill that I have that I can bring those people together, or if it's a personality trait. But I do think that it's important to note that I have a lot of people who don't agree on many issues, but they've agreed that they believe I would be a good component of the school committee. I think bringing that consensus building and bridging different opinions and opening up methods of communication will be really important. I think being a good active listener and wanting to engage, not just so that somebody speaks, but that they really feel heard, is important. I think having open communications with all residents and parents and trying to build consensus between different factions will really help us a lot. And I think having transparency, that when a school committee or the administration makes a decision, that decision is then turned around and being shared with the community in almost real time, and that people understand the reason and the effects of that decision and how it affects them, how it affects their children or their families. If elected, to school committee, I believe that I could be a voice of reason. I think I could be level-headed and a measured presence that could help bridge some of that gap and hopefully create consensus so we can tackle some of the real issues that we have. I also think that I could be somebody who could motivate and push change. I think 7 members on a school committee who are all pushing together can have that effect to change and propel our entire system forward. And I would want to be a presence that would be changing the way that we've always done things. I hope that you would consider voting for me for school committee on May 18th, and I look forward to serving you. Thank you.
Good day, residents of Ipswich. I am Diana Freehand, and I am running for a seat on the Ipswich School Committee. I am grateful for the opportunity to be reaching you through ICAM. I grew up in Ipswich, graduated from Ipswich Public Schools, and married my husband Phil, another lifelong resident. We are happy to remain in town as we raise our 3 children here, Julia, Marie, and Dante. It's an exciting time as they begin their journey through the Ipswich Public School system. Our oldest is now in the 1st grade. Why am I running for school committee? I love this town and I'm eager to give back to our community. I want what's best for all students and townspeople. I have the qualities and skills to be a productive member of this committee. Professionally, I'm a master's prepared nurse working in labor and delivery at a community hospital. At the bedside, I show compassion for my patients and families, communicate well, and work collaboratively with other nurses and disciplines. I have 8 years experience on the hospital-wide nursing policy committee and 3 years as our unit clinical leader. In this role, I reviewed policies, researched to ensure the evidence was up to date, and implemented necessary changes on our unit. I'm also trained in quality improvement. I've led projects geared towards efficiency and patient experience. The takeaway for me has always been the importance of stakeholder engagement. On the community level, I've been involved with school committee member campaigns and initiatives. I would like to translate my background and skills now to this school committee position. What do I see as the most significant roles and responsibilities of the school committee? All 3 major roles of the school committee are significant, and they are development of policy, management of the superintendent position, and strategic budgeting. Therefore, the most significant responsibility of the school committee is to utilize these roles to support the committee's mission statement, which is, in short, to prepare all students to succeed throughout life. Simply put, the most significant responsibility of the school committee is to prioritize the education of all students of Ipswich. In doing so, it is imperative to be knowledgeable of our school's current education plans and also to keep an eye on the future to ensure policies and projects will continue to benefit generations of Ipswich children to come. It is through two-way communication between the school committee and the greater community that we will be able to find support and success in future endeavors. The responsibility of the individual school committee member is to be informed, prepared, and able to work well together with other committee members and town boards. The school committee then must present cohesive messaging to the community and welcome dialogue with stakeholders such as students, staff, and the general public of town. How do I plan to influence the responsibility of the school committee to prioritize education for all students in our town? In line with our community development plan, I believe a strong school system is vital for a strong community. I understand the interrelatedness between the two and know students who feel supported and valued in the community will be better future global citizens. I am excited to further engage the community in this continued pursuit. I would like to contribute toward the school committee's goal of enhancing communication efforts by simplifying access to notifications, broadening the target audience beyond school-aged families, and expanding information sharing platforms. Success for our students is not possible without support from our town. Another way I will uphold the strong public education here in Ipswich will be by bringing my commitment and diligence to this role. I'm a meticulous worker. I'm prepared to review reports, solicit feedback, and ask questions. I can work respectfully with others, even when we may not agree. I will ensure I can maintain an open mind, but will also keep myself informed on the facts. From my professional nursing committee experience, I know how to research and collaborate well with others. I hope to put these skills to good use for our students in town should I be elected to the school committee. In conclusion, I recognize this is both an exciting and challenging time for our public school system. I look forward to the foreseeable future as the school committee will be updating policy to guide the transition back to more traditional learning as we eventually enter a post-pandemic world. On the flip side, as the stabilization fund is exhausted, there will be a need for creative and strategic budget planning. Of course, the school committee will also be addressing infrastructure improvements and a potential new elementary school building project. In regards to the elementary schools, I will be advocating for 3 themes: equitability, fiscal responsibility, and efficiency. This is specifically an initiative I know will require clear and timely communication between the school committee and local stakeholders. I look forward to hearing the diverse interests and priorities from our citizens and plan to assist the committee in providing step-by-step updates concerning the project in writing, electronically, and in person. Overall, I'm ready to put in the hard work to be an active participant in meetings and through subcommittees. I'm excited for the opportunity to be a representative of our town in our local government. I take this role very seriously and understand I will be accountable to students, voters, and the greater community. Thank you for watching, and please vote for Diana Freehand for School Committee at the polls on May 18th.
Hello, I am Lisa Roth, and I am a candidate for the school committee. I am running because I believe the town committees, including the Ipswich school committees, it's your committee. Every resident deserves to feel ownership of the decisions that are made, and they deserve to have input into those decisions. I am hopeful that we can have a committee that will listen to its residents, understand their concerns, as well as understand their hopes and ideals. Some of the skills that I would bring to the committee, I can bring from my personal life. I have spent numerous hours supporting other families in finding ways to overcome obstacles in their child's education, and I would like to take that same knowledge and skill and generalize it for all of the children of this town. Additionally, in my career, I can bring strong project management skills because it is important whenever there are large-scale projects and multi-year visions to be implemented to define milestones along the way. If we want to achieve X 10 years from now, where do we need to be year 1? Where do we need to be year 2, year 3, and so on? A big vision is a wonderful thing, but there has to be an implementation plan to support it that is achievable, affordable, workable, and reasonable. And I hope to be able to help the committee find those 4 key points in any of the projects undertaken. We were asked to address the most significant roles and responsibilities of the school committee. I could rattle off the list of them per state law, but I'd rather discuss what I think are the roles and responsibilities that are important for Ipswich. Naturally, it is our obligation to uphold state and federal standards for education, but I think it takes more than that. I think it takes relationships. I think it takes collaboration. I think it takes compromise. I think it takes creative thinking. We can be rigid rule followers and meet the guidelines every day of the week. But a truly successful committee is the one that can do those things with the support of the residents and in a way that makes them feel as though they are part of the answer. So that is what I think is the most important responsibility. Inclusion of the residents of this town in the decisions that are made. Thank you. Please make sure to vote on May 18th. and I hope you'll consider casting your vote for me, Lisa Roth. Thanks for listening.